Jason Walker here, Walker Tea Review. I'm glad you've joined us as we continue our quest for finding a good cup of tea. Our quest takes us today to the door of Samovar Teas, a San Francisco line of tea houses, and we have here a pu'er that they label as Maiden's Ecstasy. We're going to go ahead talk about this one in just a moment. First, we want to rinse out a little bit. Pu'ers are often, well, they come in two different kinds. You have your shung pu'er, which is a raw pu'er, leaves that are fermented not at all or very little, I should say oxidized rather. And then you have your shu pu'er. A shu is a more hands-on process of aging the leaves, and so that's what we have before us today is an aged, and that's the darker color that we have here. The name Maiden's Ecstasy comes from the fact that this tea serves as a kind of dowry for young brides. This tea is used for that purpose. I'm going to set that down actually. Hot water burns Jason. So we want to talk a little bit about what we have here. This again is a pu'er from Samovar. Information, we talked about 1.5 ounces for $8.50. Some recommended guidelines for preparing the tea: 1 to 2 tablespoons with boiling water, because it is more closely labeled a black tea. That means it's going to need hotter, it's going to prefer hotter water. Pour off the water immediately for the rinse aspect, which we have just done, and then pour 16 ounces of boiling water over the leaves and steep for 1 to 5 minutes. 1 to 5 minutes is quite an amount of range of time, and that is because different people will have different preferences as to how rich, deep, and inky they want this tea to become, because it is very dark looking. It's a very dark tea. Actually, that's probably dark, middle range to darker. So I'm going to pour now, so you get an idea of potential colors that we can have. That looks good. I'm going to set that aside so we can have a little time to talk about our dry leaf. And the thing you're going to note about a lot of these kind of pu'ers is that earthy quality to them. The way that they're aged, and actually they're like some wines in that they are supposed to mature or improve with age, and you get earthy notes with this. You're getting root. You're getting I associate with a kind of like a dried mushroom smell as well. So that's what we have with this one as well. And I can go ahead and talk to you about our dried leaf. They are a dark leaf. You'll see pieces that are, let me get a couple of pieces here, long, twisted, or I should say twisted along the length, or folded inward, rolled in towards the middle vein of the leaf. Again, this is a reference to our paper clip, which is 1.25 inches long. So this one here is roughly 3/4 of an inch. You have pieces that size, give or take. You also have a few golden colored or deeper, lighter brown colored pieces in here as well that kind of give it a range of variety of color, add a little brightness to it as well. So we also want to talk a little bit about our wet leaf and see what we can discover from that. Now in our wet leaf, our colors have become more consistent as far as the leaf goes, but it has released a lot of that earthy element that I mentioned. I'm getting a little bit of hazelnut, some smoke, some of that mushroom smell, all there together, and it's deep, rich Again, smoky / earthy. So, and these qualities are consistent with a lot of your pu'ers. What happens is, or the real test becomes in the cup. What you want to see is it smooth? Does it coat the mouth smoothly? We don't want a lot of these earthy aromas and flavors to really overpower. Of course, they'll be present, but they want them to be gentle. We don't want one to kind of over-dominate the others. We want a cooling, soothing aftertaste, and one that doesn't dissipate into a watery element. So that's what we're looking for in this kind of pu'er. I'm going to give this one a taste and see what comes of it. Now, sometimes you will, of course, anytime you're drinking loose teas, you always have the opportunity to get a little bit of loose tea in your mouth. Now, this tasting, previous tastings, yes, the smoothness is there. It warms and wraps and coats the whole mouth. That's smooth, that's consistent. Other things that I'm getting is the aftertaste. It wasn't watery. It still remained that regular flavor. And again, it was a combination of the mushroom and the hazelnut, so that it didn't overpower. It had kind of a milky texture with those flavors, and so they just flowed effortlessly across and didn't really try to fight for domination. Positive aspect to it. Aftertaste does draw out that kind of sweet sensation as well. So it's like your taste buds have taken all this in, and they kind of react with a bit of happiness and release that, or become highly attuned to the sweet element in it. I got to get one more. Yeah, this is the kind. Several people will recommend this kind because it kind of balances well with desserts. It balances. Some people even recommend this for coffee drinkers if you want to move away from coffee but still want a strong tasting cup with significant flavors. That's not bitter, that's not astringent, because this one doesn't have bitterness or astringency to it. That this is one of your paths to choose. So to give this a score, we give this a score of 90. We could have seen a stronger flavor profile or a range of flavors within this profile, but overall the smoothness really is its strength. This is, again, Samovar's Maiden's Ecstasy. I'm Jason Walker, and this is Walker Tea Review.